Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So today I just wanted to talk about some tips for incorporating gratitude into your life. So gratitude, which I'm sure you know, is when we're grateful for things. Having gratitude for something is being grateful for that thing. But practicing gratitude is when we're kind of actively making it a point in our life to acknowledge the things that we're thankful for and kind of really appreciate the things that we have. And that can be both material things and non-material things like our health and our family and our friends. Because sometimes when you kind of really begin to think about all of the things that you have to be grateful for in your life, it can really kind of put a more positive spin on everything. And having that kind of positive mindset can really help in the way that you approach pretty much everything that you have to address in your daily life. And even though we know how many things we're grateful for, we can just kind of tend to forget about them when things get challenging. You know, just trying to get through a busy season can lead us to forget about how many things we have to be grateful for because we're just so focused on trying to get by. So every once in a while, it's really good just to remind ourselves to try to make thinking about the things we're grateful for part of our daily practices as much as we can. And what's great about practicing gratitude, like making it a point to do this, is that it can have so many positive aspects. It can have a positive impact on so many aspects of our lives, including our finances. So when we can make it a regular practice, it can help us save money for things like paying off debt or building our savings or whatever it is that you'd like to have more money for. Because when you're not feeling grateful about what you have, it can lead to impulse spending. And impulse spending is when we wind up making purchases even without putting much thought into it. When you're not feeling grateful about what you have, it tends to make you want to go out and get more new things or different things, or maybe just kind of spend money that you don't really necessarily have for what you're spending it on, because we get into a mode where we feel like we need more because we're not grateful for what we already have. And then when we don't really take time to consider if we really need or want something and we just make a purchase, we wind up spending more than we may have wanted to, and maybe not on the things that would have been more important to us to spend our money on. And it definitely can lead to us increasing our budgeted expenses too, because we can end up trying to upgrade our lifestyle. When we're really happy and grateful for what we have, we can really put more focus on making sure that we're using our available resources towards the things that we value most. And even beyond the financial impact, there is just such a much better feeling in how you can approach the day when you're really taking the time to think about all the things that we are grateful for. It just kind of gives you a much more, just like a good feeling about your days, rather than just kind of always focusing on like all there is to do and any bad things that are happening. It can kind of lighten that up a little bit. I'm not saying that it's going to make you like walking around whistling all day, but it can definitely put a little bit more of a positive spin on your approach to the day. So today I just wanted to talk about a couple of tips that can kind of make practicing gratitude be a little bit more of a part of your life. So, of course, one thing that we could do is share on social media. So, of course, there's a balance here. But I think that sometimes when we're really happy about something, we really just want to share it with others. And, of course, that there's a balance between feeling like we're being boastful and just kind of sharing something that makes us happy. Sometimes you feel like, oh, should I share this because people might think, oh, I'm trying to show off, or, they might judge me about this, but there's definitely a balance there. I mean, you don't want to just constantly be, trying to make it look like, oh, I'm so great, I have all these things. But it's like sometimes you just feel really happy about something and you just want to share it. And it's not because you're trying to show off. It's just because you're feeling really great and you want to share it with others you know. So we kind of have to remember that we really can't control what others think about us. And if sharing something on social media that you are really grateful for makes you feel good, then go ahead and do it. It doesn't have to be on your personal page if you're uncomfortable, or your personal social media. You can do it on in a group. For example, that reminds me, I had done a few Thankful Thursdays in our Lola's Frugal Life private listener group on Facebook, and I completely forgot about it. So I should probably get back to that at least some Thursdays when I think of it. But even if you have a Facebook group that you're in that maybe shares a similar interest, and you're really excited about something related to that, just going on and sharing with the group can be fun to just kind of put it out there, because it's just sometimes when you're excited and grateful for something, you just kind of want to share it with others. So there's nothing wrong with doing that on social media to a certain extent. Like I said, there's a balance, and you can kind of judge if you're kind of just constantly boasting, or if you're just happy and wanting to share the things that you're really grateful for at any point in time. Another tip is to, actually I have two tips on two different examples on this one tip. So the tip is kind of to change how you react to things. So of course this does not apply to all situations. Some situations are truly very difficult to get through. So I'm not going to make believe that you can just change how you react to every situation and everything's going to be great. But sometimes you can change how you're feeling from negative to positive just by taking a minute to remind yourself how you can be grateful about the situation. So the first example is about going to the dentist. So in the past, I would despise going to the dentist for my cleanings. I would just dread it as it was approaching, and then sitting in there waiting for it to be over. I would be thinking this is the worst thing I ever have to do. How long is this going to take? And I just really did not like going to the dentist. There was nothing, it wasn't bad. I mean, I had a good dentist. It wasn't terribly uncomfortable or whatever. For some reason, I just hated going to the dentist. I don't like sitting in the chair in that position with my mouth open, whatever. I don't like going to the dentist. But one day I decided to change how I reacted to going to the dentist. And I started thinking about the fact that I'm actually really lucky to have this kind of care available to me, and that there's many people who are not able to get their teeth cleaned regularly and take care of this aspect of their health. So now, as weird as it sounds, when I go to the dentist, every single time I remind myself that I'm lucky to be able to be getting this care. And there's probably many people that would like to get this care and can't. And while I'm not loving going to the dentist, it didn't make it, make it into one of my favorite activities. But it definitely put a much different spin on going, just by sitting there and thinking, I'm lucky to be able to have this done. I'm really grateful that I can have this done. I'm grateful that I have my health insurance that pays for this to be done. And it took a same situation that I would just sit there miserable about the whole time, waiting for it to be over, to something that I just kind of, okay, whatever. It's not the worst thing in the world. It'll be over in a half hour or whatever, however long it takes. And then I'll be on my way back to work or whatever I'm doing. So it definitely made a difference. And that's just kind of an example that I could think of. But there's many situations where you can kind of rethink of how you're approaching something to be grateful for the situation rather than kind of despise it like I did with the dentist. And then another example I have that's kind of similar in kind of changing how you react or kind of your approach to something to be a little bit more grateful than not was with my job. So like everything, there's times when my job gets very stressful to me. And I do really love my job, but that doesn't mean there's not times when I can get totally overwhelmed with the workload that might be expected of me in in a given amount of time just due to the nature of my job and of life and whatever. And, it seems like whenever those special projects come, they come like all at the same time. And, like most of us, I get really stressed out when I have several conflicting priorities with really tight deadlines and limited resources and that type of situation. But what I try to do now, which has kind of really helped me, rather than kind of just spinning into one of those like stressful times where I'm not even working that well because I'm kind of overwhelmed and stressed out, so I'm probably not even hardly getting things done because I can't figure out like what to even do. Instead of letting myself get to that point, I will remind myself that I've gone through these stressful times before. I've always gotten through them. Nothing terrible has happened. The work eventually gets done. And I remind myself that I'm actually really grateful to have a job like this, because many people out there don't love the work that they do. And I do love my job. I remind myself that I work for a really great company and that things like this have happened before and I've gotten through them. And I'm thankful to have a job like this that has caused me to wind up being super busy right now. So of course, it does not erase the stress related to the situation, but just kind of remembering that I'm grateful to have this job and that I really do love this job can kind of help get through those really stressful times. So I think those two examples can probably be applied to many other situations where you kind of tend to want to approach something negatively because it's hard. But then if you think back about why that situation is happening, it can kind of make you a little bit, it can make it a little bit easier by kind of thinking about what aspect of it you can be grateful for. It's kind of like how those I forget, they have like some of those signs where it'll be something about like, the reason you're washing dishes is because you have a family to feed or whatever. It's that type of thing, like just kind of putting like a little bit of a grateful spin on something that might not be super pleasant. Okay, so then I only have like two other small things, just kind of, things that I hear about. Gratitude journal. That's one thing that I always hear about. I've never personally kept a gratitude journal, but I know this is a really popular practice for a lot of people. So if it's not something you've done before, maybe consider if it's for you. I've honestly never tried it, and I really should try it because I think that it is a good practice. But for me, I feel like I've really taken like steps to kind of make sure I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for as I'm going through the day. So I didn't feel like I necessarily needed to do a gratitude journal, and I'm not really like a journal-y type of person. But I definitely think it could be a really good habit if you feel like you are just rushing through the day and you want to kind of take a moment and just sit down and make it like a certain time when you want to just sit and think about the things that you're grateful for and remind yourself of like the good things that have happened during each day, or just the things that are kind of you're especially grateful for at that point in time for whatever reason. So that's another tip on how you can incorporate gratitude in your life. And then the other tip is kind of obvious, but just kind of taking time for the simple things, taking time to slow down a little bit sometimes so that we can kind of see all the things that we have to be grateful for. Getting into bed at night under clean sheets and with a warm blanket, having a car that starts up every morning, making your favorite drink and taking some time to sit and drink it, watching the changes in nature through the seasons, having food and the tools necessary to make the food to eat, watching the garbage get picked up and taken away by the garbage men. I can't be the only one that feels grateful when I see the garbage can be like empty at the front of my street. Am I crazy? I really, really do get like this feeling like I'm so happy when I see that, especially like when we're like maxing out, like where I'm like, okay, I can't fit any more garbage in this garbage can. Like I need them to come take it. And when they come take it and they leave that empty can, I'm like, oh, great. I feel so glad. I'm so happy to have them take that away. But anyway, it's just really all those like little things. Walking in the backyard and seeing like new flowers growing, or seeing a little chipmunk run by, or, just all those like simple little things that if you just kind of slow down, you can notice more. and they can really just make a more positive impact on your life. And again, the reason, like I mentioned earlier, that I thought this was a good topic for an episode is because it does impact our finances for sure, but it does impact the rest of our life too. It really has a positive impact across the board in your life. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope maybe you can kind of take a moment to think of some things that you're grateful for, and maybe if you have any challenging situations right now that you could maybe try and put a little bit more of a grateful spin on. I hope that would help you. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.